Jesus, though, went on to say this. I'm even going to tell you another reason why being generous makes so much sense. Because he said, it's like this, if you're greedy and miserly, you don't want to give stuff away, you don't want to use it up and give it up for other people who have needs, then your whole body will be filled with darkness. What's he saying? He's saying, you know what? You'll lose your ability to perceive important realities all around you. You lose your ability to perceive how your acts affect other people. You lose your ability to see how your lifestyle is affecting your relationships. You lose the ability to see how your chosen path is affecting your own heart and soul. And you will end up in places that you never imagined you'd be. Never imagined. You lose your ability to perceive important realities going on all around you, and that inability to perceive is deadly. In California, there's a little 4-year-old boy. His name is Alberto Salazar. When you first look at Alberto, he looks like a very normal 4-year-old boy. Until you notice that he might be running through the house and suddenly fall and bang his head on the corner of the table and get up and laugh like nothing ever happened, even though he's got a big lump on his head. Because little Alberto has a very rare genetic disorder. CIPA, it's known as a short, it's the inability to feel pain. When his parents brought little Alberto home from the hospital, he was the ideal baby. And he said he never cried and would sleep 23 out of every 24 hours. That'd be all right for a baby, wouldn't it? Yeah, ideal. But they noticed about 3 months, some problems beginning to happen. And the mom, who happened to be a registered nurse, began to do some checking and take him to the doctors. Things began to get worse. When he began teething, he would gnaw on his tongue so badly that there were times when they opened his mouth, they couldn't even recognize his tongue as a tongue. Eventually, they found out he had this genetic disorder. He can't feel pain. There are only 17 people in the United States they know of that have this disorder. Constant care needs to be taken because he cannot feel the damage he's doing to his body. He cannot feel when things are desperately wrong, where normally pain is a signal. Stop, pay attention, something's going on. He doesn't get the signal, and he damages himself so easily. And Jesus is saying, if we're greedy, if we're miserly, if we're stingy, if we're not generous with the stuff God entrusted to us, we get all filled with darkness on the inside, and we can no longer perceive what we're really doing with our life choices, how it's affecting us, others. We can't see it anymore. But Jesus said, but if you be generous, you'll be filled with light. You'll get it. You'll see. You'll understand. You'll make the connections. There will be a sensitivity going on that you can perceive so that you can choose wisely and not damage your own heart, not damage your relationships, not walk a path you never would have wanted to have walked and arrive at a destination you never would have wanted to be. I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was in the month of February, I was driving over to Wisconsin, and I was going through Chicago after there had been a snow, you know, and they had gone and they had salted all the roads, but now they just kind of melted a little bit, and it was just all water. And you know what it's like when you're driving down the road and there's a bunch of cars and it's spraying up salt water all over your windshield? And I'm driving through Chicago, and I ran out of windshield wiper fluid. I mean, I didn't have to go 2 or 3 minutes, and it's like, oh, I am a hazard on the road. I cannot see where I'm going. I remember times rolling my window down, sticking my head out to make sure I was in a lane where I could find a place to move over, wipe off my window a little bit, get back in and drive a few more minutes before I do the same thing before I could finally find a place to get some fluid. We all know that when you're making your way down the road, and that windshield gets gunked up, you need something to get it off there so you can see and not be a hazard to yourself and others. Jesus is saying something like this. Generosity is like windshield wiper fluid on the windshield of your life. And as you move through it, if you want to be able to see clearly what you're doing so you're not a hazard to yourself and others, you need to give and give and give. And this is what we need to be financially free. Well, Jesus is about to conclude his talk, but he has one more point he wants to make, and he says these words. He says, look, no one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. I think Jesus is pretty clear here. He's saying, look, you have to choose to serve God. You want to be financially free, you've got to choose to serve God. See, Jesus is making something pretty clear here. He said, either you're going to serve God or you're going to serve money. There's your two options. Like Bob Dylan saying a couple of decades ago, you got to serve somebody. And we all do. And Jesus is like, let me spell it out for you. You're going to serve God, you're going to serve money. You've got to do one or the other. You can't serve both because they're rivals. And you've got to make a choice, one or the other. And if you don't think you've made a choice, you actually have. And it's money. It's like this. It's like a football player who has two coaches on the sidelines, and they're both hollering a different play. You've got to choose one or the other because you can only run one play at a time. It's like a soldier on the battlefield who has two superior officers, and they're both barking different commands. You've got to choose one or the other because you can't carry out both commands at the same time. Jesus is saying there is God and there is money, and they are both issuing commands and directives to you, and you've got to pick one or the other. We have all made that choice in this room this morning already. We are right now living out the choice we've made, even if we don't know that we have made it. And I'm just wondering, do you know what choice you've made? And is it the choice you actually want? Here Jesus does something remarkable. He's such a fantastic teacher. He personifies money in order to create a word picture and drive home a very powerful point. And here's the picture that would have been conjured up in the heads of his original hearers. It was like two rival kings. And each king is laying out his case for your allegiance. And in order to get your allegiance, both kings make a promise. Did you know that God and money both make a very similar promise to every human being? You know what that promise is? It goes something like this. Trust me, and I will give you the best life possible. God makes that promise, doesn't he? Trust me, I'll give you the best life possible. I'll give you abundant life. I'll give you eternal life. I'll give you life that is really life. If you trust me, God says, I will give you the best life possible. But doesn't money make exactly the same claim? Anybody here ever seen a commercial? I mean, they're almost all saying the same thing. If we just had enough money, money could give us the best life possible. We could live in that home. We could drive that car. We could wear those clothes. We could go these places. We could be that kind of people. We could take these kinds of vacations. We could have the best life possible. We just had enough money. God and money, rival kings, same promise. Trust me, I will give you the best life possible. Both making the same promise. If you will just experience all I have to offer, you will have a significant, happy, wonderful life. Both make the same promise. But here's the catch. They also both demand the same thing. You know what they demand? In order to experience the life they have to give, you have to make a commitment to them first. You have to.